temperatures up to 12 degrees. Colder air starts to move in across the west and northwest of the UK into Tuesday, so some of the rain starts to turn back to sleet and snow across the high ground in Scotland, but elsewhere it's a pretty unsettled day, outbreaks of rain at times but staying quite mild. We hold on to that less cold weather into the coming week with further outbreaks of rain at times, so staying pretty unsettled with strong winds to contend with at times as well.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Well, there's one major story dominating almost every front page, and that is Iran. The Iranian people, of course, in their 15th day tomorrow in their rebellion against the Islamist terrorist regime. Also, on the front page of The Sun, the BBC is spending 63 million quid on 24/7 taxis. I could only dream of it. Honestly, it is implausible, the money, your money they're spending on it. Mandelson's sorry excuse on the front page of The Mirror, and the US aren't ready to bomb Iran yet. We'll be digging into that very shortly.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens. Opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good evening, it's 11 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong, and this is Late Edition. Coming up. On the front page of many newspapers, but on the Eye, The Independent even, they're leading with Iran pledging to hit US military targets if Trump strikes them. Also... On the front page of The Telegraph, toddler's ability to speak is damaged by screen time, and...
It's possible that some people crossed over but I didn't. And I think probably the reason I was separate from the third of those is because I'm gay.
Why don't these people ever just say sorry? It's so easy. And The Guardian are saying here, Mandelson declines to say sorry for his Epstein friendship. Plus, well, The Sun reveals that the BBC is set to blow a whopping £63 million on 24/7 cabs. And I'll be telling you why pharmacies could be the latest casualty. I mean, the bodies are piling up, aren't they, in Labour's tax raids. And joining me this evening, journalist Linda Jubilee, comedian and GB News contributor Paul Cox, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. And what's going on here, eh?
All I of this area is diversity and multiculturality. We have people of all sorts, from Jamaicans, Moroccans, Italians, Spanish, all sorts of people. So we want to tell Arab by Miss None, they are not welcome here. Zionists are not welcome in Notting Hill.
Right, well, we've got loads and loads and loads of stories to go through with you this evening. Let's start with your front pages. The Independent. Iran pledges to hit US military targets if Trump strikes. The Metro. Fire and fury as Iran revolts. The Eye. We're not ready to bomb Iran yet, warn US generals. And The Daily Express. Pharmacies in crisis after Labour's tax raid. The Daily Telegraph. Ban the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Starmer is urged. The Guardian. Iran warns US not to attack as protester death toll soars. The Sun. Taxi for the BBC. Beeb to blow £63 million on 24/7 cabs. The Mirror. Mandelson's sorry excuse. The Times. MPs to urge sacking of police chief in fans ban. The Daily Mail. Shot dead. Rabina, 23, a victim of the Mullah's death squads. Well, I'm joined by a phenomenal panel as ever. Journalist and broadcaster Linda Jubilee's here, comedian and GB News contributor Paul Cox, and former Labour Minister Bill Rammell. Look, I think we have to start off with Iran. It is the biggest story in the world right now. I have to say, I'm actually really pleased to say this to all of you watching at home. GB News, as far as I can tell from my research, was the first national broadcaster in this country to talk about Iran. We broadcasted it here on the 31st of December last year, of course, and I'm really pleased to say that we have always been leading the way. It took the BBC and Sky News almost a week to catch up to us when we were constantly reporting it, so there you go. But this is a massive, massive deal now. The 15th day tomorrow of protests, Paul. They're really showing quite incredible resilience in the face of such a brutal regime that is slaughtering, in some reports, between hundreds and thousands, depending on which reports you're looking at.
It's the type of bravery you see just before a revolution begins. And this is an uprising at the moment. It's not quite a revolution yet, but it's the type of bravery that's required for real wholesale change. And you're right about GB News presenting this story in all its guises. Now, I've said this on X and places like that and been criticised, sort of saying that the BBC seem to be fearful of this story. I'm not saying that they haven't covered it. What I'm saying is the way they cover it seems to have obfuscated the reasons that lie behind such outpouring. Now, if you look at the early BBC stories, it was all about traders from bazaars, not bazaar traders, traders from bazaars, sort of a bit of an uprising on the back of the economic pressures as a result of the regime. But it wasn't about that. It may have started that way, and these things often start that way. It started that way in 1979. But what has happened is people have just had enough of the Islamic Republic. Yeah. And what I'm finding, there's a bit of Schadenfreude here, because it's deliciously exposing some of the irony we've seen from the left in the Western countries over the last couple of years. Because we've been told that Iran really is the pinnacle of Islam. And, you know, they fund Palestine. Palestine's good. Hamas is good. Everything's good. Iran is good. All of a sudden, we're seeing, as we saw in Venezuela, the people of these countries disagree with the rhetoric. And they're not going to stand for it anymore. And I know you've got personal stories here, Alex. I've got personal stories about Iranians as well. I grew up in the 80s. A close friend of mine I went to school with, Kumars, hopefully he won't mind me naming, I haven't seen him for many years. But he came as part of the revolution, and I've met people since, particularly in London, that are Iranis now looking on and really, really hoping, although this is very dangerous, but really, really hoping we see a change now.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, a BBC spokesperson has said the BBC has been covering the protests in Iran daily across all of our platforms, including our main news bulletin in English and via BBC News Persian. One package for the news at 10 saw a small glitch, which meant online reporting was repeated. Take that for what you will. Linda, what do you think of what's going on in Iran at the moment?
I think that I agree with a lot of what Paul said. The people concerned are the Bazaris, actually, which is the name for this kind of merchant class. But the thing about it is, it's not just, you know, they're complaining. The fact of the matter is that they are complaining about hyperinflation, inflation of hundreds of percent, 400%. And that means that people couldn't buy food. They didn't have enough to eat. That's a very, very serious problem. And one of the reasons why this particular uprising has gained traction is because it's so universal. It's the same pain over not having enough to eat and really suffering in commercial terms in order to fuel an economy right across the whole country. Now, the most recent protest before this was the Masha Amini protest, where the woman's hair...
So 22, 21, something like that?
It was only 3 years ago, I think. 23rd. And now that was incredibly... Those women were incredibly brave, the way they stood up in front of the Revolutionary Guard and took their scarves off and did everything like that. But it didn't really spread to the same extent because it was quite a specific cause. But this is much more widespread. It's much more fundamental. I'm not sure that it will trigger a full-blown revolution. Alex and I were talking about this earlier. You think maybe not, but I think this is the beginning of the end.
Yes, I personally don't think it will be enough yet. It could still build momentum, but I think people underestimate the power that the regime has and the grip it has on its people and how many weapons they have and how they are not afraid to use them. The sort of violence that we would never allow our governments to use against us, unfortunately, are now, as you can see. Actually, let's just pull up the front page of the Daily Mail, shall we? Because on the front page of that, shot dead, a 23-year-old girl, Rabina, as a victim of one of those death squads. Bill, it's always so sad to see when people are so desperate for change, but they're not... It feels so far away when you actually look at it from a realistic perspective. It's quite far away yet that they're going to get rid of the Ayatollah and those people, unless this really picks up pace, in which case you need the Iranian military to probably support the people.
It's the military.
So there's a bigger uprising. What do you think of it being in your expertise, of course?
Well, I remember when I was a foreign minister talking to Jack Straw, who was then foreign secretary, and I said the biggest so-and-sos I'd negotiated with anywhere in the world were the Russians. And Jack laughed and he said, you haven't negotiated with the Iranians. They stand out as one of the most malign states in the world. Destabilisation of neighbouring countries, sponsoring terrorism, an absolutely shocking and atrocious human rights record. And, you know, those brave people on the streets in Iran at the moment, the latest estimate, over 500 of them killed, their guards going into hospitals and telling doctors to stop tear-gassing, but telling doctors to stop treating people who've been injured. It is abominable. The problem is, we have kind of been here before. Go back to 2009 with the disputed elections. And yes, there was an uprising. It was brutally repressed. That case of that Kurdish woman a few years ago, there were people on the streets. It was repressed. It may be more this time.
I think it is more.
But there's then also the risk of what comes next. Is it civil war? Is it a more extreme Islamist state? Is it a restoration of the monarchy? We're into really uncharted territory.
It is, it's unprecedented
We
territory.
were talking about that earlier as well. Reza Pahlavi in Washington, he's resident now in Washington, D.C. he's a symbol, and he's come out in very, very strong terms. But there's nothing much really behind him in order for that regime to take over. I'm told by a security friend of mine that it's not so much the Iran Revolutionary Guard, it's the actual military. It would take one battalion, a single battalion, in the regular military to turn against the regime, and that would be enough.
And also, Khomeini, the supreme leader, has several thousand adherents who think he is the representative of God on earth.
That's right.
And it's absolutely zealotry.
That's certainly true. And let's just throw back up to the front page for The Independent again to bring it back to what's going on. Sorry, on the front page of The Eye, should I say, because on The Eye here, we're not ready to bomb Iran yet, warn US generals. And this is where it starts getting complex, because in order to remove this dictatorship from power, they will need support internationally. And no one yet, even their neighbours, are willing to step in and get involved, which says something to me about how confident the international community feel that the Ayatollah is going to be overthrown.
Yes, and this all of a sudden starts to bring the pieces of the puzzle together, doesn't it? Venezuela, Greenland, Iran. This is no mistake. Every single piece of that puzzle is connected. The reason the US, and I think we're all pretty glad they're not going to go bombing Iran at the moment, the reason they wouldn't do that at the moment is it's not a tipping point. If you went and did so now, what would the justification be? If in a month's time the people are starving, being killed, and it's quite clear that there is a huge emphasis to get rid of the Ayatollah, then I can see someone like Donald Trump going in and helping the people of Iran. And I think, and I could be mistaken, but I think that was the US to have control of Venezuelan oil, have control of Greenland, their minerals and their offshore oil, and the Middle East via Iran, whether any of us like that or not, that would bring a level of stability, because you have to choose which of the superpowers you're going to align yourself with. And we're not a superpower. No. You're either choosing Russia, China or the US. And we choose US because they are aligned with our sensibilities.
I think what's happening here, though, is that the US is trying to calibrate what kind of retaliation is likely. The scale and the type of retaliation is going to be very important to the US, because what Donald Trump doesn't want is, serious engagement with American troops. No. And therefore people going back in body bags. He won't want to be dealing with that.
But let's have a reality check. Iraq, Libya. And, I was part of both of those, didn't end well in terms of the consequence of intervention. And, going in and striking in Iran with a bombing campaign, to what end? To what objective? And what's the collateral damage in terms of innocent civilians being killed? Is it a targeted assassination on the supreme leader? Well, that's got consequences in terms of the retaliation that would come to Western nations. So I think it's very, very dangerous.
And don't forget that Iranians have targeted many times people in this country.
Oh, they still do.
They are really busy people.
They absolutely are, and they're not very good at it, which is why they keep on getting caught, unfortunately. But that's the problem here, isn't it? And it goes back to this point here. If we bring up the front page of the Independent again now. Sorry to keep on chopping and changing, but there's a story here. Iran's pledging to hit US military targets if Trump strikes. Now, this is I don't think this is much of a deterrence. We saw this before with the Israelis and Iranians firing back and forth, and at one point in time after the targeted strikes on nuclear bases in Iran by the US, basically what the Iranians, I'm assuming, doing here, Bill, is they call up the United States going, look, we're going to fire some missiles at you for PR, but we're not going to hit you. Is that probably about right?
Well, sorry, if the US launched missile strikes directly targeting Khomeini, I think there would be retaliation.
Right.
Also, when I lived and worked in Iraqi Kurdistan and I lived in Erbil, we had a bomb on the street next to the apartment I lived with, not directly by Iran, but their supporters. They're proxies with terrorist attacks. So, you know, it's very, very destabilising and dangerous.
In many ways, Paul, one of the beautiful things about this, and I know it's always a very difficult thing to say beautiful in a time like this, but it shows the spirit of millions. It's clearly, when you see the footage, it is millions of people.
Yes.
Millions, and I don't think British people quite understand how big Iran is. It is huge. It is way bigger than Iraq and way bigger than many other countries surrounding it. It is a massive country with millions and millions and millions of people living in it, and clearly they are saying enough is enough.
Yeah, and what's really, I think, valid to point out at this stage is all the things that we've talked about with regards to Iran are talking about the Ayatollah and his chums. The people of Iran, culturally, are much different to those people.
They are,
incredibly different. You only have to read a Google Wikipedia history of Iran going back to about 1965, and you will get a very good understanding that the people of Iran stand out culturally much different to anyone else in that region.
Yeah, of course.
And what we're seeing is those people are much more aligned to the way we see the world to some degree. I wouldn't want to take anything away from them, and I don't think those people are necessarily rebelling against being Muslim, but they are rebelling against the Ayatollah and a totalitarian state of Islamists.
Yeah, and this is the difference, isn't it, right? Because if there was an extreme form of Christianity here that was suppressing us, telling women, you can't speak, you must cover up, we would rebel against that, because it's not religion in its moderate form that you embrace it is forced upon you.
This is a theocracy.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Yes.
And that, in a sense, makes it very unstable.
It's true, but there's a bit of this that I don't get. And you're right, Paul, the Iranian people are, by common consent, some of the most educated, cultural people anywhere in the world, and certainly in the Middle East. And yet for, 50 years, they've been dictated to by a theocratic, vicious state. And I don't quite get how those two have gone together.
Yeah, it's a complex situation. I guess, look, we'll be returning to this topic throughout the evening. We also have a good, fantastic guest, an Iranian guest, will be joining us to talk about this, because who better to talk to than the people themselves who've experienced it. I can tell you from personal experience, Iran is a beautiful country. Its people are phenomenal. They have been so. Having been there, seen the oppression from my own two eyes, you can see how badly they want to get away from it. And all my thoughts are with them, and they're very brave people for doing what they're doing. Moving on, time for a Great British giveaway. 85 grand could be won. All the details are coming up in your screen now.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. What would you spend all of that cash on? 2026 could be the year you spend more time spending, with an incredible £85,000 in your bank. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
All right, coming up, we're going to go on delving into the papers. Peter Mandelson's pretty poor apology. Well, it wasn't even an apology, was it? And jury trials. And there's some interesting stuff here. Islamophobia law Islamophobia label even risks breaking the law. J.K. Rowling puberty blocker trial must end, and job seekers flood the market, staff laid off. That's coming up shortly.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So it comes down to money, doesn't it? Always follow the money, follow the money. And, you know, big tech is a big business. It is a very, very powerful industry. And it's pulled a blinder because it has convinced government and schools, teaching unions, you know, the individual local authorities that are responsible for procurement. It has convinced everyone that tech is either not harmful in the case perhaps of social media and smartphones or actually beneficial. And it's a lie. I mean, it's a complete lie. The evidence is there. It is harmful.
There are plenty of examples in society where there are things that we know that are harmful to children or that they may come with risks and benefits associated with them. Let's say contact sports, for example. Let's say giving them junk food. But we still give parents the right to make that decision because we believe in the rights of parental responsibility over state intervention in those areas. What makes those areas different to the risks and benefits associated with digital use for kids?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. And I, as you know, as Rennie knows, I'm about as libertarian as one gets, certainly for adults. I do think when you know, the intersection of individual choice and freedom with child welfare and child safety is rather different. And I think there are many examples of areas where a problem is too big for individual parents to solve. I mean, you've mentioned contact sports, and I think that's a really good example because, of course, there we all have the choice as parents whether our children should or shouldn't engage in contact sports. But phones are rather different. I mean, certainly smartphones, and I think that, you know, you do have a distinction with phones versus edtech. It is literally mandated by schools, and there is no legal right for parents to opt out. So there is no choice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong Tonight's Late Edition. And joining us now is journalist and comedian Nicholas de Santo. Nicholas, thank you very much for joining me on the show. You've worked, of course, in the Iranian-speaking sphere across your career, including now where you work at a private Iranian-speaking broadcaster. What's the sort of, what are we missing, I guess? What are the British people not hearing from the newspapers that you are hearing?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody, especially Paul, who is also a dear friend of mine. It's all very exciting, isn't it? I was just listening to Iran International, which is this opposition, Iranian Persian language television based in London, of course, broadcasting the latest message of the Crown Prince, Reza Pahlavi, who lives in exile, has been living in exile over the past almost 5 decades in the US, and he has just ratcheted the revolution up. Now he says, you have taken control of the streets, but now we need to keep and hold on to the city centers. Also, we need to, he says, basically, all those apparatus or regime offices which are responsible for the internet blackout or for the oppression or for suppressing violently the protesters are now legitimate targets. Also, we had this incident where, I don't know if you've seen this fantastic video on social media, on X. There was a demonstration in front of the Iranian embassy in London, and there's this protester who manages to break through, runs across the road, chased by British police, still manages to climb the facade of the Iranian embassy in London and change the flag of the regime with the previous flag, with the monarchy flag. So now Crown Prince says that Iranian embassies overseas belong to the people of Iran. They are legitimate targets. You need to go and change those flags. So this time it looks like we have a massive number of people. Geographically, it's spread throughout the country, even in the small towns, and that's very important because it overstretches and overwhelms the suppression, the anti-riot forces of the regime, especially when they are afraid of defections towards the people. And then we have this figure who is a leader overseas, which has come out and explicitly is giving people orders and statement after statement. What is missing is, missing, but it's the elephant in the room, is President Trump's repeated threats that I'm not Obama, I mean business, I've done it in summer. If you kill people or if you kill more people, I will react and I will, quote unquote, hit where it hurts. So this has also been very heartwarming for the people who seem to have been encouraged. And finally, I think once and for all, yes, 47 years we've put up with these bigots and with these savages, but maybe this is a good time at long last. The problem, or what is really deafening, is the silence of legacy media, which don't know how to deal with this revolution, which doesn't fit into their dogmatic narrative, right? Because this is a wrong revolution. You have a revolution. They usually love revolutions, don't they? They love Maduro, don't they?
Nicholas. And this is the thing, right? And you touched on this a moment ago. It's on the front page of The Independent there. Of course, Iran pledging to strike back at the US. On the front page of the iPaper, the US generals are supposedly saying that they're not ready to bomb Iran yet, and they would need more time because retaliation would be likely. This won't be welcome news for Iranian protesters because many of them have welcomed Trump to intervene. But some people will say, actually, America getting involved will actually only give credence to the regime, who will say, look, this was the US's plan all along. This is Israel's plan all along. They've been trying to overthrow us, and it will just play into the Iranian regime's hands, perhaps, rather than the people seeking freedom. What do you think about that?
Well, we've seen this scenario, or this logic, if you like, 7 years. Iran, as soon as it decides, even if it decides the price of eggs, all of a sudden you are a Mossad agent, you are a mercenary of the imperialist US, you name it. Right.
Nicholas, unfortunately, Nicholas, I'm sorry to cut you off, but we're losing your feed a little bit there. We'll try and bring you back up on the screen in just a moment. We'll just get your audio feed corrected there. Just bringing this back to my panel, I know we're talking about it a lot, and I know people at home are really interested in this because this is people of everyday life in Iran coming together and say, we've had enough. We've had enough. We've had enough of this. We don't want any more of it. Donald Trump has, gone ahead as his usual sort of self and gone, well, yeah, we'll get involved. We'll help the Iranian people. But you were alluding to this earlier, Paul, and I think you're right. There is a changing global sphere now. 2026 has started off the way that people, didn't think it would, I guess, with Greenland being up for grabs by Donald Trump, Iran in flames, and, of course, the capture of Maduro. Are we moving to a new world?
Yes, and I think whilst it's caught us by surprise slightly, it certainly hasn't caught certain people by surprise. I mean, that sort of attack on Venezuela, it was incredible, immaculate, and takes some planning, even when you've got Delta One and the best in the world. That takes 3 or 4 months. So I would take from that Donald Trump has been planning this for some time. Right. And like I say, this is of no coincidence. He would have seen what's going on in Iran developing to this point as well. That's not a conspiracy on my behalf saying that he's instigated this in any way. I'm not sure he could have done. Nicholas is such a... By the way, hello, Nicholas. Hopefully you can hear me. So good to see him. Nicholas is really incredibly well informed on this stuff, and is one of those Iranians that we were all talking about earlier. That is incredibly erudite, is very well cultured, very well educated, and is representative of the type of Iranians we simply don't get to see because of this regime.
We're going to bring Nicholas back. Actually, we've just got him back on the line. Nicholas, thanks. Sorry about that. We just wanted to make sure we could hear you properly. Nicholas, do you want to pick up where you were briefly just a moment ago?
This time round, all stars are aligned. Under Obama, maybe his heart was in the right place, but we had similar protests. And he said, he didn't come out because he said, I don't want to give ammunition to this narrative of the Islamic regime. I don't want to discredit the protesters by, letting them be called agents of America or whatever. And guess what? The protest didn't succeed because your other guest was rightly asking, how come these savages, these idiots, these backward mullahs have been in power for 47 years if the people are different from the rest of the Middle East? And of course, the answer is when the regime has oil and when the regime has Europeans who have appeased them in the absence of American oil company, and when the regime has Russia and China behind them, of course, not much happens, right? But this time, we have Donald Trump. He has done it in summer. Obviously, we don't need boots on the ground. We need surgical attacks. And just like we've seen in Venezuela, this has emboldened even those Republicans who have traditionally been a bit wary of getting engaged in foreign wars. And again, it doesn't have to necessarily happen, but as we've seen over the past few days, there is internet blackout. We don't know how many people have been killed. Hundreds are estimated to have been killed. But again, thousands could have been killed. 15 days of protests in a massive country, a few hundred people, only a few hundred people means that the regime is showing some restraint because they're afraid of defections, because they are overstretched, and also because there's this sword of Damocles above their head, imminent Israeli second attack or potential Trump attack. And this emboldens the protesters on the streets.
Nicholas, let's pass you over to Linda Jubilee. She'd like to ask you a question.
So, Nicholas, thanks so much for joining us. I just wondered, are there two things here that could move the needle somewhat? You mentioned earlier, and it was very insightful, the possibility of defections from the regular army. Now, I'm told that would be very significant if that happened in any number. But also, you mentioned surgical strikes, and we saw some of those pinhead missiles being fired in the middle of last year. So that could happen too. If both those things happened, what do you think would be the result?
I think it will catalyze this and would give people more courage to go ahead. Revolutions don't happen until they happen. And towards the very end, things accelerate exponentially. And, well, this happened in Iran in 1979, and nobody could believe it, and then a whole mess created because neither the West nor the people themselves, nor those who allied with the Islamists could believe it. They thought, well, Islamists paved the way for us, and then we do things at our own time. But the defections happened. Shah left, unfortunately. Jimmy Carter, the worst president in the history of the U.S., betrayed the best friend of the West in the Middle East, and the rest is history. So all we need is a significant figure or figures, a significant or important numbers of the armed forces to say, hey, what do I want? Shall I die and go down with the ship which is already sinking? Again, they have just seen Maduro. Earlier they saw Assad. Yes, Assad and his family went to Russia, but did they take all their generals and all their soldiers? No, they didn't. So these people, they have nowhere to go because, again, Israel. This is the new world that Paul was also mentioning. Israel has removed Syria. They have removed or decimated Hezbollah in Lebanon. They are disarming Gaza. Where do they? They can't go to Venezuela.
Nicholas.
Right now, as we are talking, these soldiers and anti-riot police, the intelligence apparatus, need to decide for their future.
Nicholas.
If my hand is not stained in blood, do I want to get bloody right now, or do I want to hope for a future in the future Iran?
Nicholas, just brief responses and questions, if you don't mind. Bill Rammer would like to ask you a question.
Yeah, look, I desperately hope this is the end of the wretched theocratic regime. But, Nicholas, I was making the point earlier, we don't know what follows. And what's your judgment that if the regime does fall, what kind of regime or what kind of government is sustainable and plausible in Iran?
Well, the Crown Prince says, I want to lead the transition, and then we have a plan. There's going to be a transitional government. He has laid it out, and there's going to be a referendum where people can decide if they want a republic or they want the monarchy back, or they want a federal government or a more centralized government. So the plan is there. And what gives me hope is that, of course, Westerners, you know, it's a case of once bitten, twice shy. We have seen regime change in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Syria. But with all due respect, in Iran, we are talking about an entity as a nation that has been there for centuries, you know, despite all the ups and downs. So these are not, this is not a country which is the result of, you know, Sykes-Picot Agreement or the fall of the Ottoman Empire. These people have been with each other, and they have this consciousness, and they have this awareness of their national identity. So that gives me hope that Iran will not become another Syria or another Libya, because it's not one of those countries.
Nicholas de Santo, thank you so much for joining me on the show tonight and the panel. Really appreciate your time on this. Extremely insightful stuff. Really brilliant, honestly. Coming up, we go stateside and catch up with Ben Leo, who's bringing us the latest from the US. There's so much going on America-related, isn't there? Now more than ever, we need people like Ben Leo over there to bring us all the latest. That'll be next on Alex Armstrong Tonight Late Edition. Oh, unfortunately, we're not going just yet. We will go in a second, though. There's some other things I want to bring you tonight. Islamophobia label could risk breaking the law. How do you feel about that one? I think that could be quite a bit of a thorn in the side for the Labour government. Pubs under threat from recycling tax. How many more things are we going to do to destroy our pubs? Anyway, look, we'll bring you all of those in just a few moments. J.K. Rowling's also saying puberty blocker trial must end, and job seekers market is being flooded at the moment because more people are being laid off. It is, whilst we're looking at all these international things, there's a disaster going on in Britain, and we're going to talk about it here on the show tonight. We'll be back with you in just a tick.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. On Tuesday, we'll see some unsettled weather across the western Med with some snow across the hills further east. So confirmation then of some outbreaks of rain on Tuesday across the Canaries, Madeira, parts of western Spain and Portugal. Mostly fine, as I say, across the central part of the Med there, certainly for Italy, one or two showers and some bright spells too, but a risk of snow certainly across the hills of Turkey. As for the coming few days, well, things generally quieten down, but we'll see further rain at times across western parts.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest weather update from the Met Office for GB News. The week ahead looks less cold than of late, but we do hold on to fairly unsettled conditions with spells of wet and at times fairly windy weather affecting most of the UK. Low pressure's anchored towards the northwest of the UK at the moment. Tightly packed isobars indicating quite blustery conditions, and those outbreaks of rain will also work their way in from the southwest at times. And certainly an unsettled night to come across the northwest of the UK. The west of Scotland seeing gales or severe gale force winds, outbreaks of showery rain at times too. Meanwhile, further south, the rain gives way to some slightly clearer conditions, some clear spells at times with scattering of blustery showers, and a much milder night to come, certainly than in recent nights, and certainly frost-free to start the working week on Monday. As for Monday itself, we hold on to showery bursts of rain across the north and northwest of Scotland during the morning. Again, gales, if not severe gale force winds for a time across the northwest there. Could see gusts of 70 to even 80 miles an hour in a few spots, enough to cause one or two issues, I think, first thing on Monday morning. For Northern Ireland and the north of England, we'll see some clear spells and a scattering of showers. The best of the early dry weather, I think, will be across the east and southeast of England, with showers also starting to work their way in across the southwest as we go through the morning. The strong winds and the outbreaks of rain across the north of Scotland slowly ease as we go through the day on Monday, whereas towards the southwest those showers start to merge to longer spells of rain and become more widespread across England and Wales into the afternoon. I think here we could see some fairly wet weather into the afternoon. Quite blustery winds again, holding on to strong winds across the north of Scotland even into the afternoon here, but a much milder day than late, temperatures up to 12 degrees. Colder air starts to move in across the west and northwest of the UK into Tuesday, so some of the rain starts to turn back to sleet and snow across the high ground in Scotland, but elsewhere it's a pretty unsettled day, outbreaks of rain at times, but staying quite mild. And we hold on to that less cold weather into the coming week with further outbreaks of rain at times, so staying pretty unsettled with strong winds to contend with at times as well.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Ahead of the Late Show live at midnight, GB News' Ben Leo is coming on. Ben, tell us what is going on with pizzerias. What's the connection Brits need to know about pizzerias around the Pentagon, and are they exceptionally active again this evening?
Yeah, so if you weren't watching last night, I briefly mentioned about how there's these pizza Pentagon trackers. So there's pizza shops, pizza stores all around the Pentagon. So you've got Domino's, Papa John's, DC Pizza, you know, name your brand, whatever, other brands available. And there's this tracker on social media which tells the public when footfall in those pizza shops, those restaurants, is higher than normal. So yesterday morning, there was lots of custom around all these pizza shops, loads of margaritas flying out the door around the Pentagon. And the theory is that when the US is on some special military operation or they're about to go and bomb somebody, all the staff working at the Pentagon order loads of pizzas in because they're pulling all-nighters, they need some food to fuel themselves. So that's kind of correlates. And so far, for the year or so this tracker's been up, it always correlates with, first of all, high footfall in the pizza stores, and then some hours later we hear that the US has bombed somebody, like, you know, the first Iran strikes or something. Yesterday, before ISIS got struck in Syria, again, the pizza Pentagon tracker was absolutely going DEFCON 5, everybody ordering pizzas, and about an hour and a half ago, we had another increase in footfall. So the Pizza Pentagon tracker on X has said various pizzerias nearby the Pentagon are reporting above average traffic. So my question tonight is, who's next? Who's getting bombs next? Any guesses, Alex?
Well, I mean, looking at the front page of the British press, you'd think it was Iran, wouldn't you? But we're also seeing conflicting reports that the US isn't ready to do that yet. So maybe it's just a wild card tonight. Who knows, Ben? I wasn't expecting the Syria strikes either, frankly. Yeah, very interesting stuff. What's the feeling on Iran in the ground in Washington, D.C.? Is there a consensus building that America should get involved, or is it still very much up in the air as to whether American intervention would be welcomed?
There's a bit of a split. So there is a running theme, not just with Iran, but there's a running theme with the administration now, and I've heard there are some concerns within the administration about kind of, this is meant to be an America First administration, and that the White House, President Trump, needs to get some comms out, some communications, some rhetoric that these interventions in the likes of Venezuela, with Iran, if we see it indeed next week, President Trump reportedly has some meetings on Tuesday about how to intervene in Iran, and we hear that he will be intervening, but what that looks like will come next week. So the White House needs to establish a clear communication strategy and explain to the public, to their voters, why this matters to them, i.e. Venezuela. Who cares if Maduro's in there or not? President Trump will need to say, well, look, we're going to get our hands on loads of oil, your gas prices will continue to come down, that kind of thing. Iran, why should we go and bomb Iran? Well, maybe because it will stop terrorism, it will stop Iran taking a foothold in the West, in Israel, in the United Kingdom and so on. It's a Western first operation, and so on and so on. So there is a bit of a split. Some people saying, yeah, that's great, America's back, baby, let's go and throw our weight around, and others are saying we don't want these interventions.
Ben, before I ask you what you're doing on your show tonight, Bill Rammel's here, he'd like to ask you a question. Fire away, Bill.
Yeah, Ben, you and I touched on this before Christmas. Trump's interventionism is really at odds with, you know, America First, an end to forever wars. To what extent do you think this is really beginning to divide his base?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely split, and there is, as I just said to Alex, there is concern amongst President Trump's staff about how to, especially coming up to the midterms, about how to pivot away from all these international wars and interventions and international diplomatic matters and back to the US, i.e. gas prices are at a 6-month low. Cost of living is still a concern for a lot of people. GDP, the economy seems to be doing quite well. However, the jobs, President Trump, according to Labour reports yesterday, the jobs market is struggling, more people unemployed than they would have liked. So they need to pivot away from these international developments. And there is certainly a split. There's certainly people who were in the original MAGA base who voted for President Trump who have gone even further right, the likes of Nick Fuentes and all his kind of lot who, you know, they absolutely hate Trump, they hate MAGA, they think they're a bunch of traitors because they're not deporting not just illegal immigrants but also sort of legal migrants as well.
Ben, what is actually coming up on your show tonight? Thanks for taking the series of interview questions there, mate. What are you doing this evening? Oh no, he's gone. We've lost him. Never mind. Well, we'll never know. You'll have to.
Trump's made a strike.
Oh, he's back. There he is. Ben, what's coming up on your show, mate? Come on, tell us.
Sorry, yes, I'm back. There is a bit of a delay. I know you've touched on that Chagos story from the First Minister, the letter to President Trump. We've got another Chagos exclusive tonight. It's another letter, but it's signed by Royal Navy top brass, some real big names, current serving Navy personnel, retired personnel. This is another letter that's being pumped out, and you just get the feeling now the screw is turning on this Chagos situation. I think we're going to get some response maybe next week from President Trump and the US on this newfound pressure for Trump to get involved and pull the plug on the Chagos surrender, because it's an absolute joke. Elsewhere, ICE is offering, just imagine, sorry, I'm going to take your time up. Imagine it is 2030, Nigel Farage is Prime Minister, the Home Office is pumping out job adverts, 50k sign-up bonuses for Brits who want to join the UK version of ICE. That's what the US is doing. 50 grand if you sign up to ICE, become a deportation officer and kick illegals out of the United States. And also it's the Golden Globes tonight. Adolescence, the amazing documentary, not that the BBC thinks was a documentary, is up for multiple awards. They are on track to scoop up all the awards because, yeah, of course, we need to be told how young white British working class kids are the problem.
There you go. No, nothing new there, Ben, unfortunately, is there? Looking forward to the show tonight, as ever. Ben Leo is going to be up at midnight for the Late Show Live. What a time to be tuning in, because honestly, there's no better time to be. America is the news. Right, anyway, coming up, Scottish prosecutors are offering some Palestine action protesters the chance to avoid criminal records by accepting £100 fines. 100 quid for breaching terrorism legislation. That's next on Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Welcome back, everybody. Something a little bit different now. The Sunday Times is reporting this. Scottish prosecutors are offering some Palestine Action protesters the chance to avoid criminal records by, get this, accepting £100 fines for breaching terrorism legislation. The offers were made to campaigners arrested last summer, of course, for displaying support for Palestine Action shortly after the group was prescribed as under the UK terror laws, with prosecutors seeking to keep what they view as minor offences out of court. However, some have argued the approach risks undermining the Terrorism Act, prompting concerns that offences linked to banned organisations are being treated too leniently. Paul, what do you make of this? This could set a very bad precedent.
Well, look, I mean, I personally don't believe that Palestine Action should be a prescribed group. I do understand and fully agree that some of the provocateurs within that group have committed criminal acts. The old ladies that get arrested because they've been hoodwinked into supporting Palestine, however, you know, I'm not sure that they're terrorists. I agree. And this kind of undermines the whole process. This tells us that they don't believe in the law. Because if you're not offering people £100 to get off of essentially other crimes. So this just tells me that the Scottish police don't believe that this is a worthy law.
Yeah, Linda?
I think that the problem is, Paul, I see your point exactly, but it is a prescribed organisation, and you can't really give it's not a parking
No, you have to follow
or
it through.
a speeding fine. You've got to follow it all through, haven't you?
Yeah.
So I think I do agree with you, but I think they have to, you know, this is a solution that they...
Lock them up. Linda Dewberry says, lock them all up. Minimum 5 years. She doesn't.
As a previous legislator, Bill, what do you think about this? Have Palestine Action groups, if this is successful, proven that the law is actually defunct in its current form?
Well, I've voiced on this channel before, when the prescription first came out, I had reservations. I wasn't convinced. I then listened to the statement. I listened to Dan Jarvis, the Security Minister, giving a statement in the House. And I think there is a persuasive case that they should be prescribed. You know, they have engaged in violent criminality, urging others...
Broken to military bases. I mean, what is the...
Absolutely.
Let me put it... Yeah, well, this is the thing, right? And I've met these people because I've been out on these protests. Some of them are completely unhinged. Some of them are just little old ladies who clearly feel very, very passionate about the cause of Palestine. Now, there's a difficulty connecting them as terrorists. As supporting that group, I understand there should be some sort of consequence to it. But it feels to me putting them in prison would be one step too far. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, but you're between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit taught, I have to admit. I am
rightly or wrongly, the decision was taken in Parliament to prescribe. Yeah. Once you've done that, people who support them have to face the sanctions of the law. And, you know, this has a more serious element of it. There are people on hunger strike at the moment.
Yes.
And I think some of them may die as a result of this. But you cannot, you know, and in terms of, Linda, that you think the Scottish police don't believe they should be prescribed. No, I don't think that's the issue. they can't cope with the volume.
Yes,
I think that's true as well. Yeah. They definitely won't be able to cope with the volume, that's true.
This has put us into a very difficult position, hasn't it? Because I think... I wonder whether some amendments to laws need to be made to prescribe people who've supported but haven't taken direct action with the group as slightly different assets to this. I do think that there needs to be a black and white sort of, yes, you shouldn't back terrorist groups. We have to be clear on that one. But there's something clearly here where the law is perhaps a little too weak.
That may be plausible, but that's going to take a lot of time and a lot of legislation to actually make that change.
Listen, I'm sorry, we have to leave it there, everybody. I've got to run through the front pages one more time with you. Independent, Iran pledges to hit US military targets if Trump strikes. Metro, fire and fury as Iran revolts. The Eye, we're not ready to bomb Iran yet, warns US generals. The Express, pharmacies in crisis after Labour's tax raid. The Telegraph, ban the IRGC, Starmer is urged. Guardian, Iran warns us US not to attack protester death toll soars. The Sun, taxi for the BBC, Beeb to blow 63 mil on 24/7 cabs. The Mirror, Mandelson's sorry excuse. The Times, MPs urge sacking of police chiefs in fans ban. Daily Mail, shot dead, Rabina 23, a victim of the Muller's death squads. Right, well, listen, thank you so much for joining me over the last 24 hours. Paul, you're going to be on the Lates?
I am. I'm going to be
Late Show Live?
I'll be here all night.
We'll love to see it.
Hopefully, but, till 2.
Well, let's hope so. Bill, Linda, always a pleasure. Thank you all for watching me at home. I will see you next Friday for Britain's Newsroom and then back here Saturdays and Sundays.
Coming up on the Late Show Live, could the take or surrender deal be about to meet its fate, which would mean the absolute end of it, because we have yet another letter from a bunch of Royal Navy top personnel, top brass, who are urging the United States to get involved and pull the plug on the deal, which doesn't make sense. Also, should Scotland fans boycott the World Cup because they don't like Donald Trump? All that and more in just a tick.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show Live every night at midnight.